Good morning. Andrea, how you doing this morning? Glad you could make it. Donta, welcome. So how is everyone doing this morning? Andrea's good. Perfect. Donta, good. Fantastic. Good to hear. All right, hope your day has started off on a positive note. So today we're going to optimize images as well as create some icons, which is part of the assignment. So our agenda for today is optimizing images. We talked about images yesterday, what images do. Remember, they contribute to the storytelling process. We talked about cropping them, how that makes the photo more dynamic, how that changes the focal point. We're going to also, part B is going to be creating the vector graphics, and that is the 5 icons that we're going to create using the basic drawing tools in XD. And these icons are appropriate for your website or your device. So we just have to do 5 of them. It's a lot of fun, but we are going to go over that as well. So any questions on what we have for today's agenda? All right, fantastic. So let's move to the next slide here. One thing that, I'm just gonna go over into the course right now really quick, that if we look at the assignment instructions, that it says right here, before moving on to part 1 or part 2, consult the gradebook and note all changes requested by your instructor, right? So you're making the changes. You all received a video. I'm in the process of adding those in. If you've submitted, I've done your video. It's just a matter of them being added in the gradebook. So if you're in section 2, you have your video. Okay, so whoops, wrong one. Let's go back and into here. So to view your video, go into the assignment comments. So you will go to the assignment comments, you will read the feedback, and it'll say feedback providing direction for week 2 revisions is discussed in the attached video. You copy this link, paste it into your browser, and you will be able to view the video. It's approximately 10 minutes. It could be a little bit less. It could be a little bit more, but it averages right around 10 minutes. So it's providing, again, direction for the week 2 revisions. And if we go into the course, you can see that if we look at the rubric, you are graded on if you make those revisions. So right here, implementation of design changes or updates noted in the week 1 instructor feedback. It's worth 20 points. All right, any questions on that? So very, very important. That is part of the assignment. All right, so let's look at part 1, which is optimizing our images. Now, when it comes to web design, you'll see a lot of art when you're doing web design comes in a scalable vector graphic or an SVG. So that is, we talked about that yesterday, the different file formats. That is the format that we're going to be using for the logo. If you're in section 2 of this course, then you've got your grade. If you're in section 3, you may have not yet, but it will be by the end of the day. So it just doesn't, well, do you know what section you're in, Andrea? It will be on in your portal. It'll tell you the course name is, and it'll say design 241 _2 _3 _4. You're in section 2, so yes, you have got your grade. And yep, you've received your grade for both the sitemap and the assignment and the wireframe. All right. And you should have received a notification if you have your notifications turned on. Do y'all have your notifications turned on? Okay, then you should get a notification that says, "Hey, you've got it's been graded." So you'll get a notification, just like you get notifications on when the live session is starting. The live everything in the course announcement. So just double check that again. Anyways, so we are going to tackle the logo first. So let's take a look at how we can get the files from Illustrator into XD. There are a couple of ways we can do this. You could, here's my file. One way I could do this, I could highlight this, I could copy it, I could move over into XD. This is a lot of work. I can move over into XD and I can paste it in there. And it takes a while, but it pops in. So here's my logo. And I have to kind of move in. But there you can see my logo right there, right? So my logo has been added to the page, but it's not necessarily the most efficient way to do that. So another way is I can come into File and Import. I can find my logo. And let me just go to my course here. I can find my logo. There's a long way around too, isn't it? So I could find, actually, let me backtrack here. We could go with my just basic Illustrator logo, which is what I do not want to use, and I can import it that way. But now that brought in all my artboards, which I don't want. All of my Illustrator artboards, which is something I do not want. Another way is you can drag it. So if I'm using Bridge, I could drag this into here. That didn't work very well, did it? The best way to do this is to export this as an SVG file. And then I can, if you notice right here, the reason why when I brought that in, I had 3 artboards is because if you look right here, you can see that this Illustrator file has 3 artboards to it, correct? If you've all opened your logo up, and I'll jump over into my Illustrator file, if you all open your logo file up, you will see that each one has a black and white version, each one has a color version, and each one has a white version of it. Have you had a chance to look at it yet? So that's why I got all 3 artboards. But I only want, for example, the logical choice is my color version, correct? But how do I get that? I'm not going to get it just by dragging it and dropping it. I'm not going to get it, by copying it. That's not my best option. So what we want to do is convert this. We want to export this. We want this to be, as I mentioned yesterday, we want this to be the smallest file size possible. An AI file is going to be very large. It's going to be much larger than an SVG file, which is a scalable vector graphic. They're both vectors, but why not go with the smaller file? It's very easy to do. So I open my Illustrator file, my logo, depending on the company that you're working with or you're going to work with. I'm doing First Choice Animal Clinic. And the first thing we're going to do is come up to Window, and this is the same if you're on a PC, Window and Asset Export. So Window, Asset Export, and that's going to bring up a little export dialog box. this is very easy to do now. So I want to select my artwork and just drag it into here. And then we can save it. So if I do this, now this is something, attention to detail, you want to make sure you pay very close attention to. If I just drag a marquee around and select this, all I have to do is simply click on it and drag it. And now you see the green circle with the plus sign and release. And there we go. Actually, I believe what you're going to run into is you're going to run it in your file. I believe that all your logos are probably ungrouped. So this is maybe a problem you run into, is if, watch the difference. You saw that last one where I got the complete logo, but watch, because this is not grouped as separate objects. You can see all those, right? Watch what happens. If I just highlight this and drag it into here, look at that. I got 6 different assets. Why is that? What happened? It's not grouped together. So these don't serve me any purpose, right? It's not usable. Let's delete those. So what you need to make sure is that you must group your logo. So I select everything, object, group, or if you're a keyboard shortcut fan, which I am, Control G on PC or Command G on the Mac, it is one group. So if I select it, you can see it's all grouped together. Now we can drag this group into the asset export. Now we have this one, it's the logo as one object. It's kind of like libraries, but you can drag this, you can export this into your library, but this export isn't like a library. You can export it to the library, but it's not like the library. The library you could drag and drop into XD from your library if you wanted to. But we first have to create the SVG file. Did that answer your question? Okay, perfect. So from here, we want to name this, right? I don't want to look for something that says asset 2542. I want something that's very self-explanatory. So to rename this, all you have to do is click on that, and let's just name this. I'll name this logo, and I probably want to make it as a color logo so I know it's not the black and white logo. Okay, highlight. So in order to export this, it must be highlighted. You can see that it's highlighted by the blue outline. Y'all see that? Okay, so now it has a selection around it, which is blue. Also notice right down here, I can't export it until I've highlighted it. Watch what happens. Once I select it, this is highlighted, and now the export button lights up. The format I want is SVG. I'm not sure what your default is. Your default may be PNG, it may be JPEG, but it must be SVG for the logo. This is the correct file format, SVG. I will then click export. So you see the settings, select, the setting is SVG, I export. It's going to ask me where do I want to go to. What I've done is I've created a folder in my week 2 that's called optimized images. This is going to make it easier for me to identify the correct images to be placing in my XD file. So I've created a folder called optimized images. I will hit choose, and it should be in there. If you needed the black and white or the color one, you would do the same. You'd go through the same process. So I can look right here. Here's my optimized images. There's my logo. See the SVG? Look at the size of that, 13 KB, 13 KB. Very small. And I guarantee it is much smaller than our logo here, which is 1.3 megabytes. And it's going to be the same quality. You see the advantage of that now. Okay, the next step is to bring that into our XD file. So what we are doing this week is we are going to be, after we've made the revisions, it is now, it starts to become this drag and drop. So I'm going to add all my images this week. There are going to be some exceptions, and I'm adding my logo. So to add the logo, I would recommend that you start with the first artboard. Zoom in on it a little bit anyways. I can zoom out by hitting Command or Control and then the minus sign, or remember we can zoom out, zoom in by plus and minus. If I, let's come up here and go File, and we can import. I can then find my logo, select it, import it. Here it is. Okay, so I need my logo. I'm not going to place it in the circle because I don't want to cut this off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of delete the circle, or I am going to delete the circle. But now we need to scale this. So now this is going to be a problem you're going to run into. I'm going to show you how to fix it. If I want to scale this, either way, watch what happens. Do you see what's happening there? Not a pretty sight. My logo is, everything is all scaling, all these elements are scaling at one time, right? It's treating this logo as several objects. In fact, there's 6 different objects, as you saw when we tried to export that without grouping it. So you're saying, okay, well, maybe I can solve that by holding the Shift key down. Well, let's see what happens. Okay, the Shift key, that may be the solution. It may not be the solution. The correct on how to fix this, if you keep running into that, is if you can come over here and make this and constrain that and turn off the responsive size or the resize right up here. Now look at that. Look. So the key is turning off that responsive size. And then if you just make sure this is locked, that locks the aspect, meaning it's not going to distort. You can't distort it. Now I can move this into position. I can use my alignment panel up here to align that to my artboard, which it is aligned. Let's just double check to make sure this is aligned. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Now let's copy this. Let's kind of zoom out here and watch. Let's get rid of these. I want this in the identical position, correct? So if I highlight each one of these artboards, watch what happens. I hit Command V or Control V, and look at that. Identical position, repetition. How cool is that? And you would do the same thing here. So we could copy this one, and I could delete that. I can highlight that. I can paste it in there. It's kind of obviously it's off center because it's a different size, but I can then just kind of maneuver this one in here. Let's resize it a little bit, and we'll center it to that artboard. And let's delete this. We now copy the new size, and I highlight this one and paste it. Look at that. I don't have to worry about centering it again. That's one of the coolest things that XD provides. There's so many, but look at that. You can't beat that. Look how fast that speeds up your workflow. All right, any questions on how to optimize the logo and what a simple process that is? No, you don't have to make the background black. You should not make the background black. The background black would be, you'd be indicating, okay, so the background black on the artboard or for the logo? The logo, no, cannot change the logo. You can't add a background to the logo. you really wouldn't want the logo black and white. You want a color version here. If the logo is going to be present somewhere else, you know, like maybe up here, it might be white, really small up here, but the logo cannot be altered. Okay, very good question. All right, with that being said, we're going to move on to optimizing the images. So I'm going to stop the video and then we're going to pick up again.